Hey everyone, before this video starts, can you please like and subscribe? Thank you and hope you enjoy the video. Hey everyone, so in this video we're going to be talking about how not to spin in F1 22. So, to start off with, we have to identify the three ways of which you're spinning. So you're either going to be spinning off a curb because of your throttle control or because you're compensating for a mistake. So for curbs, it can happen if you're like going for a quick exit, you take a lot of curb, you haven't got like traction and you spin, or you bounce off it maybe, or like you hit a curb, the rear end steps out, or anything like that. So you've got to be, if you don't want to spin on curbs, more careful on the throttle when you're on a curb, because you'll lose grip, and you obviously don't want to like lift off completely, but you want to sort of like maybe just drive with caution. Get ready to make a slight correction, maybe lift off like a tiny bit, like 10% maybe. And the other things that you got to do is you've got to know in time trial what curbs to miss. So what I mean is, you do a run in time trial, let's say Hungary, and you start your lap, and you know what curbs you can and can't take fully. So in Hungary, turn 5, if you run wide, you'll hit the sausage curb, you'll get beached, you'll spin, you'll have no control. So you've got to know what curbs you can and can't take all the way up to the white line. And the last thing you got to do is just avoid all sausage curbs. If you see a sausage curb, go up as close to it as you can, but don't hit the sausage curb, because no matter what, your tires will lift off the ground. You'll lose lap time just from that alone, and your rear end will step out. Maybe like your rear tires will move faster than your fronts, or even the opposite. It lifts up one of the rears, then your fronts will move faster, and it's don't miss all sausage curbs completely. They're horrible. So throttle control is the second way people spin. So these are the steps to not spin from throttle control errors. Ease into your throttle, which is like the first, like if any of you, like anyone who's turned off traction control knows, if you just put your foot down, you'll have massive amounts of wheel spin. So you've got to ease into it. So that's just the basic. Then you've got to straighten the front wheels as best you can. So you're coming into a corner, you hit your apex, you want to, as like quickly as you can, obviously not like stupidly if there's still like a bit of a curve in the track, but you want to get your wheels straight, and that's when you can increase the power, because you have straight wheels, and if you do hit some wheel spin, it won't matter. And even so, you shouldn't have a lot of wheel spin. And the second step, or the third step actually, is you want to use as much of the track as you can. So you come in, you hit your apex, you accelerate, you want to go to the exit curb, because then you'll have your wheel like as flat as it can possibly be, and you'll minimize wheel spin. Whereas if your wheel's really hardly turned, you're much more likely to spin. And the fourth step, don't accelerate till just before you've hit your apex. So especially if you have ABS off, you'll come in, you do your trail brake, you line it up just onto the apex, then you accelerate, and then you'll get your exit. If you accelerate before this, it means you've broken too early and your rear end will step out. Or if you accelerate before this, you'll have too much speed, you might not make the corner. You'll have the wheel spin. You won't get as good of an exit, and you won't get good rotation. The fifth step. If you're behind a car, drive with caution. So in 2022, they've added dirty air into the game. So if there's a car in front of you, you're gonna want to be maybe in a slightly higher gear. Maybe you're gonna want to be like slightly offset off the racing line. Because if you go on the throttle too quickly, the dirty air, you could spin. Maybe if you're like in too low of a gear and you're going for the racing line, you can spin if you go too quickly onto the throttle. So you have to be really careful when it comes to like being behind a car in dirty air. And so the third and final way that people can spin in F1 22 is if they're compensating for a mistake. And this is the way that players who have slightly more like experience in the game, maybe like 200 hours plus, this is the way of spinning that like gets the slightly more intermediate to higher players. If you go too deep, and then you want to recover your lap time and you go too hard on the accelerator, you can then spin because you're not like managing your throttle. And if you brake too early, you can do the same thing. So like the way to fix this is basically, if you go deep, just accept it. You've lost lap time. If you brake early, you're a slightly better boat, but you're also going to lose a couple tenths. Yeah, if you don't want to spin, you have to accept this, or you're risking your race if you're in a public lobby. Anyway, that's all for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.